1. The Red World's Secret. In the year 2145, humanity had made Mars its second home, or at least a rough version of it. For decades, engineers and scientists had worked to terraform parts of the Red Planet. Large domes covered small cities where the air was breathable, and crops grew under artificial sunlight. Yet, much of Mars remained barren, a silent desert of crimson rock. That is, until an anomaly was discovered. Satellite scans revealed a patch of green, spreading across the Martian surface in the Vallis Terra, a region thought to be lifeless. The area pulsed with strange energy, and moisture levels were off the charts. When scientists examined the scans, they realized something incredible. The region was alive. No human had planted these trees or carved them. Crystal blue streams that cut through the landscape. No machine had sown the glowing flowers that moved as if touched by a breeze. Something or someone had done this. Commander Ethan Cross, leader of the Prospera expedition, was the first to set foot near the anomaly. Behind him was Dr. Lila Reeve, a botanist renowned for her studies of alien plant structures. She stared in awe as they stepped through the airlock of their lander and onto Martian soil. Before them stretched a forest unlike any seen on Earth, dense, glowing and vibrant with life. Trees stood taller than skyscrapers, their trunks a translucent green that pulsed like veins under skin. Flowers swayed gently in colors of electric blue and violet, releasing wisps of bioluminescent pollen into the thin Martian air. "It's beautiful," Lila whispered, her voice cracked with wonder. "How is this possible?" Ethan remained cautious, gripping his pulse rifle tightly. "Stay sharp. We don't know what we're dealing with here." The team of settlers and scientists advanced into the garden. As they moved, Lila noticed something strange. The plants moved. When the humans approached, branches seemed to twist ever so slightly. Flowers turned their faces, and vines shifted as if watching them. And then they saw them. To the Zypherians. At first, the Zypherians looked like part of the forest. They emerged slowly, their bodies tall and elegant, resembling a cross between a tree and a humanoid. Their bark-like skin shimmered in silver and green hues, and their limbs stretched like roots searching for ground. Their heads, crowned with leaf-like structures, tilted with quiet curiosity. Lila gasped. "They're alive." The Zypherians did not speak, not with sound. Instead, as they moved closer, the air seemed to hum. Vibrations traveled through the ground and into the human suits, like a silent language felt rather than heard. "What do they want?" one of the settlers whispered nervously. Lila stepped forward, placing a hand on her chest, a gesture of peace. The nearest Zypherian mirrored the motion, its fingers long and thin, like vines. "They're intelligent," Lila said. "They're communicating."
"What do they want?" one of the settlers whispered nervously. Lila stepped forward, placing a hand on her chest, a gesture of peace. The nearest Zypherian mirrored the motion, its fingers long and thin, like vines. "They're intelligent," Lila said. "They're communicating." Ethan frowned. "Do they understand we're just here to study?" Lila turned to him sharply. "We don't know what this is. It's not just a garden, it's their garden." But Ethan didn't share her awe. As the leader of a mission to secure resources for human colonies, he saw the plants differently. Scans showed that the trees were producing massive amounts of oxygen, enough to sustain human life across Mars. The glowing sap inside the plants also contained an unknown energy signature, something that could revolutionize power systems. To Ethan and others, the Zypherians weren't guardians, they were obstacles. 3. The first cut. Despite Lila's warnings, Ethan ordered the team to collect samples. "We need to understand this place," he reasoned. "We're talking about resources that could save lives back on Earth and Mars. We'll take what we need carefully." The settlers began harvesting small plants and taking samples from the glowing trees. The Zypherians watched in silence, their faces impassive, but their bodies grew still. The humming in the air seemed to stop. Then it happened. When a settler cut into the trunk of one of the larger trees, the air trembled with a deep vibration. The Zypherian closest to the tree staggered, its silver skin dimming, as if the cut had wounded it instead. Lila ran to the settler, shouting, "Stop! You're hurting them." Ethan stormed over. "They're trees, Reeve. You're letting your imagination get the better of you." Lila spun to the nearest Zypherian, watching its body pulse weakly as it knelt beside the bleeding tree. "They're connected to this place. The plants, they are them." The Zypherians did not retaliate. They simply knelt beside the wounded trees, touching the bark with their long fingers. But the forest felt different now. The air grew heavier, the colors dimmer. Lila turned to Ethan, desperate. "We can't keep doing this. If we harm the garden, we harm them. Don't you see? This isn't just a resource, it's a living, breathing ecosystem." Ethan shook his head. "You're overreacting, Doctor. Keep the samples coming." 4. A planet in pain. Over the next few days, the consequences became impossible to ignore. The plants began to die where they had been cut, their glowing sap turning black. The Zypherians weakened alongside them, their luminous bodies fading to gray. Then the tremors started. Small quakes shook the Vallis Terra as roots collapsed beneath the surface. Lila, frantic, confronted Ethan in the command tent. "You have to stop this. The Zypherians are symbiotic with the plants. They are the plants. If the garden dies, Mars will die with it." Ethan scoffed. "You expect me to believe that?" Lila grabbed a datapad showing satellite scans. "Look at this. The forest regulates the thin Martian atmosphere. It's creating the oxygen we need to survive. If we destroy it, the planet will collapse into dust again. This garden isn't a miracle, it's alive, and it's holding Mars together." Ethan paused, staring at the scans. He looked conflicted, but then his jaw hardened. "It's too late to turn back. The colonies are depending on us. We'll finish what we started." That night, Lila made her choice. 5. The choice. Under cover of darkness, Lila left the camp and returned to the Zypherians. She approached the largest of them, a being taller than any tree, its body glowing faintly despite its clear weakness. Lila knelt before it. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Please, tell me how to stop this." The Zypherian reached out, placing its vine-like hand on her head. Lila's mind exploded with visions, flashes of the Zypherians, rival on Mars eons ago, of how they had coaxed life from the barren soil, creating a fragile paradise. She saw how their lives were woven into the roots and branches, how the plants were their bodies, and she saw what would happen if the garden died. Mars would become a wasteland again. When the vision ended, Lila understood. The Zypherians were offering her a choice: to protect the garden, or to let her people destroy it. 6. The last stand. At dawn, Lila returned to the camp, her resolve unshakable. She rallied a group of settlers who had grown uneasy about Ethan's orders. Together, they sabotaged the machines and halted the harvesting. Ethan was furious. He confronted Lila at the edge of the garden, his pulse rifle raised. "You're betraying your species," he growled. Lila stood firm. "No, Ethan. I'm saving us. If we destroy this place, Mars will never recover. The Zypherians are giving us a chance to coexist, to survive together. But we have to stop now." Ethan hesitated. Around them, the Zypherians had gathered, their bodies glowing faintly as if in hope. The settlers watched, waiting for Ethan's decision. Finally, he lowered the rifle. "We leave the garden alone," he muttered. Relief flooded through Lila. The Zypherians hummed softly, their song spreading through the forest. Slowly, the garden began to heal. 7. A new harmony. In the years that followed, humanity learned to live alongside the Zypherians. The garden expanded, and Mars thrived. The Zypherians shared their knowledge, teaching humans how to nurture the land instead of exploiting it. Lila became the bridge between the two species, reminding humanity of a simple truth: life, no matter how alien, must be respected. As she stood beneath the glowing trees one evening, she watched the Zypherians move through the forest, tending to the plants as they always had. Mars had become something new, not conquered, but shared. For the first time, it felt like home.